The sound of my heel snapping was the crack that split my world in two. But what happened next? No one saw that coming. Not even me. My name is Sabrina Parker, and this is the day I stopped being invisible. Sabrina, where are my earrings? Vanessa's voice cut through the morning chaos like a knife. I was already running on 3 hours of sleep, having spent the night pressing her wedding dress and arranging flowers. My sister's wedding day. The day that was supposed to be perfect for her. Coming. I called back, rushing up the stairs with her jewelry box in my hands. The Parker house buzzed with activity. Makeup artists, hairdressers, photographers, everyone focused on making Vanessa look like a princess. And there I was, the servant in designer clothes that didn't quite fit right. Finally, Vanessa rolled her eyes as I entered her room. You know how stressed I am? This is my day, Sabrina. Everything has to be perfect. I handed her the diamond earrings, a gift from our father, Charles Parker. Of course, I got nothing. I was just the helper, the errand girl, the one who made sure everything ran smoothly while everyone else got the glory. Your dress looks beautiful, I said quietly. She barely glanced at me. Obviously, it cost more than your car. The words stung, but I swallowed them down. Today wasn't about me. It never was. 3 hours later, the church was packed. 500 guests, all there to witness Vanessa's perfect day. I stood at the back, watching everyone admire my work, the flowers. I arranged the programs I designed, the details I perfected. But I was just part of the background. Sabrina, my mother Sylvia appeared beside me, her voice sharp. The photographer needs you to walk with Vanessa down the aisle. Her maid of honor is sick. My heart jumped. Walk down the aisle? In front of everyone? But Mom, I'm not dressed for... You look fine. Just don't embarrass us. Don't embarrass us. The words that have followed me my whole life. I took my place beside Vanessa as the music started. The church doors opened, and suddenly, all eyes were on us. For the first time in my life, I was in the spotlight. Then it happened. Snap. My heel broke. Right there, in front of 500 people. I stumbled, nearly falling. A wave of gasps rippled through the church. My face burned with embarrassment. As I tried to steady myself, "Are you kidding me right now?" Vanessa hissed under her breath. "You're ruining everything." The whispers started immediately. What's wrong with her shoes? How embarrassing. Poor Vanessa. I wanted to disappear. To run away and hide, but something inside me refused to quit. I slipped off both shoes and continued walking barefoot. The giggles started small. A few women in the front row covering their mouths. Then it spread like wildfire. My bare feet on the cold church floor, my cheeks burning with shame. Everyone staring, whispering, laughing. She's walking barefoot. At her sister's wedding. How embarrassing for the family. My father's face was red with anger. My mother looked like she wanted to crawl under a rock. Vanessa's jaw was tight, her perfect smile cracking. But I kept walking, step by step, barefoot and humiliated. That's when I saw him. In the third row, sitting perfectly still while everyone around him laughed. A man in an expensive black suit, watching me with intense dark eyes. He wasn't laughing. He wasn't whispering. He was just watching. Something about his gaze made me stand straighter. Made me lift my chin higher. I didn't know it yet, but that man was about to change everything. We reached the altar and I tried to fade back into the crowd, but the damage was done. The whispers followed me everywhere. Did you see her shoes break? So clumsy. I feel bad for Vanessa. I found a corner and tried to disappear, fighting back tears. This was supposed to be a family celebration, but once again I was the embarrassment. That's when I felt a tap on my shoulder. I turned around and froze. It was him, the man from the third row. Up close, he was even more handsome, tall with sharp features and kind eyes.
His suit looked like it cost more than I made in a year.
"Excuse me," he said in a deep, calm voice. "Are you all right?" I blinked in surprise. Yes, I'm fine." "No, you're not." He looked down at my bare feet, then back at my face. "Wait here. Don't move." Before I could ask why, he was gone. The ceremony continued, but I couldn't focus. Who was this stranger, and why did he care? 10 minutes later, he returned. He wasn't alone. Behind him walked two women in elegant clothes, carrying a beautiful shoebox. Ladies and gentlemen, his voice boomed across the church, somehow commanding attention even during the ceremony. The wedding music stopped. Everyone turned. My heart pounded. What was he doing? My apologies for the interruption, the stranger continued, his voice carrying easily through the silent church. But I couldn't sit by and watch a lady in distress. He walked toward me, the shoebox in his hands. The entire church watched in stunned silence. My name is Alexander Carter, he said, and I heard several people gasp. Carter, as in Carter Industries. One of the richest families in the country. Alexander knelt down in front of me, opening the shoebox to reveal the most beautiful pair of heels I'd ever seen. Crystal-studded, elegant, perfect. May I? He asked softly. I couldn't speak. I couldn't breathe. 500 people were staring at us, and this billionaire was kneeling at my feet. I can't accept these, I whispered. You can, and you will, he said gently, taking my foot in his hand. The shoe fit perfectly, like it was made for me. As he placed the second shoe on my foot, he looked up at me with those intense dark eyes. There, he said, standing up. Perfect. But he wasn't done. Alexander turned to face the crowd, his voice strong and clear. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you about the most impressive woman in this room. My heart stopped. What was
he doing? Today I watched this young lady face public embarrassment with grace and dignity.
When her shoe broke, she could have run away. She could have stopped the ceremony. Instead, she put her family's happiness before her own comfort and continued barefoot. The church was dead silent. You could hear a pin drop. My mother taught me that true character is revealed not in moments of triumph, but in moments of humiliation. And today, Sabrina Parker showed more character than anyone in this room. He knew my name. Somehow he knew my name. While others laughed at her misfortune, she showed strength. While others whispered behind their hands, she held her head high. This is a woman who deserves our respect, not our ridicule. Vanessa's face was pale. My parents looked shocked. The entire wedding party stood frozen. So before we continue this beautiful celebration, Alexander said, extending his hand to me, I think Sabrina deserves a proper entrance. The church organist, as if under a spell, began playing the wedding march again. Alexander offered me
his arm. Shall we? I looked around the church.
Every single person was staring at us. My sister, my parents, 500 guests, all waiting to see what I would do. For 25 years, I had been invisible. The helper, the servant, the one who stayed in the background. But not today. I took his arm. We walked down the aisle together, my new shoes clicking confidently on the marble floor. The same aisle where I had stumbled and been laughed at just 30 minutes ago. But this time, no one was laughing. This time, I wasn't invisible. As we reached the back of the church, Alexander stopped and turned to me. You handled that beautifully, he said softly. Who are you? I asked, still in shock.
He smiled, Alexander Carter.
And I've been watching your family's business for months, considering an investment with your father. My blood went cold. Your dad's potential investor?
I was, he said.
But after watching how your family treats you, I'm reconsidering. What do you mean? I asked. Alexander's expression grew serious. I've been to 3 family dinners at your house, observing your father's business practices. Each time, I watched you serve everyone, clean up afterward, and never get a word of thanks. I remembered those dinners. I had cooked, served, and cleaned while hiding in the kitchen, never knowing we had such an important guest. I also heard your sister on the phone yesterday, he continued, calling you her personal assistant and laughing about how you'd probably mess up the wedding somehow. My heart sank. Vanessa had said that? But most importantly, Alexander said, stepping closer, I saw how you handled yourself today. When everyone else showed their true colors, you showed yours. Before I could respond, my father appeared beside us, his face red with panic. Mr. Carter, I had no idea you were here. If I had known, You would have what? Alexander's voice was ice cold. Treated your daughter with basic human decency? My father's mouth opened and closed like a fish. Actually, Mr. Parker, I was just telling Sabrina about my decision regarding our business deal. The wedding reception was in full swing, but I couldn't enjoy it. My mind was spinning from everything that had happened. Alexander found me on the terrace, looking out at the garden.
Hiding again? He asked gently. Old habits, I said with a weak smile.
He stood beside me, and we watched the party through the glass doors. My family was inside, laughing and celebrating, probably hoping I would stay out of sight. I need to tell you something, Alexander said. The investment deal with your father, it's off. I turned to stare at him. Because of me? Because of them, he corrected. I don't do business with people who don't value their own family. If your father can't see your worth, how can I trust him with my money? The weight of his words hit me. My family's business deal, the one they've been working on for months, was gone because of how they treated me. But there's something else. Alexander continued. I'd like to offer you a job. A job? Director of Special Events for Carter Industries. You organized this entire wedding, didn't you? Every detail I've seen today shows incredible skill and attention to detail. I couldn't speak. A job? With Carter Industries? The salary is $200,000 a year, plus benefits, he said casually, to start. My current job paid $35,000. This was more money than I had ever dreamed of. Why? I whispered. Why would you do this for me? Alexander turned to face me, his dark eyes serious. Because today I saw something rare. I saw someone who puts others before herself, who handles crisis with grace, who stays strong when the world is watching her fall apart. He paused, then added softly, and because someone should finally put you first. The reception was winding down when my family finally cornered me. Sabrina, my father's voice was tight with anger. We need to talk. He pulled me aside with my mother and Vanessa close behind. Do you have any idea what you've done? He hissed. Carter pulled out of the deal because of your little scene today. My little scene? I stared at him in disbelief. Dad, my shoe broke. You embarrassed this entire family. Vanessa snapped. It's my wedding day, and everyone's talking about you, because a stranger showed me kindness, I said, my voice getting stronger. Something you've never done. My mother gasped. How dare you speak to us that way? How dare I? Something inside me snapped. How dare you? Do you know what I've done for this family? What I've sacrificed. The words came pouring out like a dam had burst. I planned this entire wedding. I arranged every flower, designed every program, called every vendor. I cooked dinner for your business meetings, cleaned your house, ran your errands, and never got so much as a thank you. My father's face was purple with rage. You ungrateful! No! I cut him off. I'm not ungrateful. I'm done. Alexander appeared beside me, as if he had been waiting for this moment. Is there a problem here? He asked calmly. This doesn't concern you, my father snapped. Actually, it does, Alexander said. Sabrina is now an employee of Carter Industries. Which means if you continue to harass her, you'll be dealing with my legal team. The blood drained from my father's face. Sabrina, my mother's voice was suddenly sweet, fake. You can't be serious about this. We're your family, are you? I asked, the question hanging in the air like smoke. Because family doesn't treat each other the way you've treated me. We gave you everything. Vanessa protested, her wedding dress rustling as she stepped forward. You gave me nothing, I said quietly, but my voice carried in the small room. Nothing but orders and criticism and the privilege of serving you. I looked at each of their faces, angry, desperate, finally seeing me as something other than a servant. Do you want to know what I remember about my childhood? I asked, surprised by how calm my voice sounded. I remember making breakfast for everyone while you slept in. Mom, I remember doing Vanessa's homework so she wouldn't get in trouble. I remember cleaning the house before your dinner parties, Dad. Been staying in the kitchen during them, so I wouldn't embarrass you. My father opened his mouth to interrupt, but I held up my hand. I remember my 16th birthday, I continued. The day you forgot completely because it was the same weekend as Vanessa's school dance. I made my own birthday cake and ate it alone while you drove 2 hours to watch her get crowned prom queen at a dance that didn't even matter. The room was silent except for the distant sounds of the reception continuing outside. I remember Christmas mornings where Vanessa got a pile of presents and I got practical things. Socks, school supplies, a vacuum cleaner for my dorm room. Because Sabrina doesn't need pretty things, right? Sabrina just needs to be useful. Tears were streaming down my face, but my voice never wavered. I remember every time you introduced me to people as our other daughter while Vanessa was our pride and joy. I remember every time you asked me to change my plans so I could help with something for Vanessa. I remember being told I was selfish for wanting one day, one moment to be about me. But I'm grateful, I continued, wiping my eyes. Because you taught me something important today. What's that? My father asked, his voice barely above a whisper. You taught me the difference between people who are related to you and people who actually care about you. I turned to Alexander, who had been standing quietly in the doorway, watching the whole scene with calm interest. When do I start? I asked. He smiled, and it was like the sun coming out from behind clouds. Monday morning, I'll send the car. As we walked toward the door, I heard Vanessa call out desperately, Sabrina, wait! We can talk about this. We can work things out. I paused at the doorway and turned back one last time. There's nothing to work out, I said. You made your choice a long time ago. You chose to see me as your helper instead of your daughter, your servant instead of your sister. Now I'm making my choice. I looked at each of them one final time. I choose people who see me, who value me, who treat me like I matter. And that's not you. 6 months later, I stood in my new office on the 42nd floor of Carter Industries, looking out at the city below. The girl who once walked barefoot down a church aisle was now one of the most successful event planners in the country. My phone buzzed, a text from my sister. Please call me. Dad's business is failing. We need your help. I deleted the message without responding. A knock on my door interrupted my thoughts. Alexander walked in with 2 cups of coffee. Busy day?
He asked, setting 1 cup on my desk. The best kind, I said, smiling.
Over the past 6 months, our relationship had grown from business to friendship to something more. He had kept his promise to put me first, and I had finally learned what it felt like to be valued. Any regrets? He asked, sitting across from my desk. I thought about it seriously. My family had cut me off completely when I refused to help save my father's business. Vanessa had spread rumors about me seducing Alexander for money. My mother had told everyone I was ungrateful and selfish. It hurt. Of course it hurt. But then I looked around my office at the life I had built, at the man who saw my worth when no one else could. None, I said honestly. For the first time in my life, I'm exactly where I belong. Alexander smiled. Good, because I have a question for you. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. My heart stopped completely. Sabrina Parker, he said, getting down on one knee beside my desk. Will you marry me? I stared at the ring, a simple, elegant diamond that caught the afternoon light from the windows. It was perfect. Not too big, not too flashy, just beautiful and timeless. Are you sure? I whispered, my voice catching in my throat. I come with a lot of baggage. A family that hates me, no real friends outside of work, and enough emotional issues to fill a therapy textbook. Alexander laughed softly, his eyes warm and loving. You come with strength that amazes me every day. You come with grace under pressure that most people never develop. You come with intelligence that challenges me and kindness that humbles me. He took my hand in his voice getting more serious. You come with the most beautiful heart I've ever known, and a spirit that stayed unbroken despite years of people trying to break it. Tears were streaming down my face as I looked at this incredible man kneeling in front of me. I've never been more sure of anything in my life, he said. I love your laugh when you think something is genuinely funny. I love how you bite your lip when you're concentrating. I love the way you remember everyone's birthday and send handwritten thank you notes.
He paused, his thumb brushing over my knuckles.
I love how you put extra money in the coffee shop tip jar when you think no one is looking. I love how you stay late to help your team finish projects. I love how you've never once complained about the family that treated you terribly. I love your strength, your vulnerability, your dreams, and your fears. I love who you were before we met, and I love who you're becoming. I want to spend the rest of my life showing you how precious you are. I was crying so hard I could barely speak. Yes, I managed to whisper. Yes, yes, 1,000 times yes. He slipped the ring onto my finger, and it fit perfectly. Just like the shoes had that day in the church. Like everything with Alexander, it was meant to be. He stood up and kissed my forehead. I love you, I whispered. I love you too, he whispered back. More than you'll ever know. We held each other in my office, 42 floors above the city, both of us crying happy tears. Outside, life went on, but in that moment our world was perfect. 1 year later, Alexander and I had our own wedding. It was small, intimate, filled with people who actually cared about us. We held it at a beautiful garden venue overlooking the lake, with exactly 50 guests, each one someone who had shown me love and support. Elena from my old job was my maid of honor, wearing a soft pink dress that made her glow. Jordan, the nurse who had become a close friend after we met at a charity event, did a reading about love and friendship that brought tears to everyone's eyes. The colleagues who had become family filled the pews. My new team from Carter Industries. Clients who had become friends. Neighbors from my apartment building who had welcomed me with casseroles when I moved in. My biological family wasn't there. They hadn't been invited. My father's business had failed 6 months after the wedding. Without the Carter Industries deal, he couldn't secure the loans he needed. The house was foreclosed on, and they had to move to a small apartment across town. Vanessa's marriage was already showing cracks. Her husband had discovered her spending habits and wasn't happy about the debt she had accumulated on designer clothes and spa treatments. I felt sorry for them, but I didn't feel guilty. They had made their choices, and now they were living with the consequences. As Alexander and I exchanged vows under an arch of white roses, I thought about that broken heel that had changed everything. How a moment of humiliation had become the catalyst for my new life. You look beautiful, Alexander whispered as we were pronounced husband and wife. I feel beautiful, I whispered back. And for the first time in my life, I really meant it. During the reception, I stood on the terrace looking out at our guests. They were laughing, dancing, celebrating our love. These were people who saw me, valued me, cherished me. Any regrets? Alexander asked, coming up behind me and wrapping his arms around my waist. I leaned back against his chest and watched our friends and chosen family enjoying themselves. Only one, I said softly. He tensed slightly. What's that? I turned in his arms and smiled up at him. I wish I had broken my heels sooner. He laughed. As fireworks lit up the sky above us, the girl who had once been invisible was finally seen. The girl who had served everyone else was finally being served. The girl who had been last was finally first. And it all started with a broken heel and a stranger who chose kindness over laughter. Sometimes the worst moments of our lives are actually doorways to the best moments we never could have imagined. That broken heel didn't ruin my sister's wedding. It saved my life. 3 years later, I received a letter in the mail. It was from Vanessa, handwritten on cheap paper. She was divorced, living with our parents in their tiny apartment, working 2 jobs to make ends meet. The letter was full of apologies and regrets. She asked if we could meet for coffee, if I could find it in my heart to forgive her. I read it twice, then folded it carefully and put it in my desk drawer. Maybe someday I would be ready for that conversation. Maybe someday I would want to rebuild that bridge. But not today. Today I had a life to live, a husband to love, and a business to run. Today I had everything I had ever dreamed of and more. The broken heel had taught me something important. Sometimes you have to walk through the laughter to find your voice. Sometimes you have to lose everything to gain what matters. And sometimes the person who saves you is the one who sees you when everyone else is looking away.